All right, welcome everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and this is what we're allowed to do here on Saturday afternoons. We get to talk about things that are happening over in tech. And when I was a kid, Saturday mornings was like the best because you got to watch cartoons. I think Bob Vila and the Home Improvement guys were on TV, and I was thinking about that yesterday. Like you kind of get a sense of that here on 570, where you got all of these different expertise programs where you could start listening in the morning and learn about home improvement and plant care and computers, and it's sort of like that where I almost felt like when I was young I could take on any of those projects. All of those are probably, now that I'm an adult, I know all of those projects were harder than I could have ever accomplished, right? But when I watched it, they made it look so simple and they were so graceful at doing it that that you half the stuff mechanically that I know came from those experts. So it's kind of cool that we have a radio station in here that provides that for the community, where you get to listen in on experts talk about their craft and what goes on in their wheelhouse. You going along with it, you gain knowledge and expertise. It's just amazing. And I've always had sort of like an affinity for this kind of stuff, because in the information age, when everything is you can get access to just about every piece of information without going to a school or much. I mean, that the knowledge comes to you. It gets delivered on a silver tray and silver platter, and it's yours for the asking. So amazing here at 570. We get to pass this information off to you, the listeners. And as always, thank you for coming along with us on these little crusades to make all of us a little bit smarter. These things in front of us, they're tools. And you're probably using it 90% for entertainment, not really getting you much along except for, a nice sophisticated distraction, but there's so much more you can do with this thing that's sitting in front of you. And if you just dabble and tinker a little bit, you can stumble upon stuff that will improve your life and make things a little bit better. Sometimes you go down a path that you get a little bit too deep into, and that's why we have this show, so that we could talk about those things. When you get in the weeds a little bit, you could talk about what you're experiencing and whatnot. So the media, video, audio, that kind of stuff is where everybody ends up going. Wi-Fi and the cameras and the streaming and all that. So if you have any questions along the way today, feel free to give me a call up and we can talk about it a little bit. We'll talk about it in front of other people, so you just might help somebody out there that's wondering the same thing that you were. And because we get to talk about it publicly, everybody gets smarter because of it. And in this audience, not only do you get me on the show, but you get so many seasoned professionals that are listening in right now that do not hesitate to call in and also answer your questions. So they hit me with the emails and texts, and they call the program all show long. So there is very little environments that we can't discuss here, and just a matter of time before someone chimes in and finds and digs for the answer. So this is our encyclopedia. This is our library of all things in tech. So if you're wondering, 330-729-9977 is the phone number. You can get me here for the next hour and 40 minutes or so until we have to go off to sports land. And so a little update. If you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you know that speed cams and I don't get along. And those of you who don't know, who don't drive, who haven't been paying attention, so police departments have been setting up these cameras that they can pirate up above a bridge and shoot cars as they're going under the overpass, and tag your license plate, and then a couple weeks later you get this thing in the mail that says you were speeding, send $100. Doesn't count for points, doesn't do anything on your driving record, and it really irritates most of us drivers, especially I drive 200 miles a day. And so it's just a matter of time before I rack some of these up. I make it sort of my personal agenda not to. So I put $200 away every year for paying my speeding tickets as I go around town. And I try really hard not to get any tickets, because then I could send the $200 to my favorite charity, Making Kids Count, or Project MKC. And so in the last 2 years, since all these municipalities have gotten these speed cameras, I've been dinged more than any other time. I probably have gotten 2 per year. Well, recently I just said I'm done with it, because here's the thing. It's not that I don't think that speeds should be patrolled and you should get pulled over for it. The problem is you really don't know when you got pulled over. So it doesn't give you a chance to become more safe or do anything different. And so I'm going to vent for a couple minutes about how I'm just done paying these stupid tickets. I'm either going to do one of two things, where I'm going to just put them through the shredder like I've done the last couple times, or I'm going to take a picture of a $100 bill and I'll send them a picture, because pictures are the same thing, right? Anyway, that's just me being a smart butt. I'm not a real big fan of what the populace is doing. Now, if you remove the personal, like, I'm mad about this thing, and you kind of look at it from a 10,000 miles up, this is just a creative way of financing police departments that allow them to raise money by using the people who are breaking the rules. Okay, I kind of get that. So if you stop breaking the rules, you would get no speeding tickets, right? But the problem, what I think is going to happen with these police departments, is they're going to kind of put so much of their budget, like they're alienating everybody who should be believing in them and supporting them and pushing them and being positive about it. They're alienating anybody who would be on their team, because they're hammering people, right? So by the time that everybody's like, you know what, yeah, I'm totally sick of getting these tickets, I'm just going to slow down, all their funding is going to dry up. I mean, you might argue that nobody's ever going to slow down, but they might. And then where police department's going to get their funding from? They're going to have to go back on a bunch of taxpayers. I swear to you, if any FOP police department would call me and say, hey, we're trying to raise money for whatever, I don't care. You've got enough money out of my hide from these cameras. I'm going to say, hey, go to camera people, ask them, because they're the ones that are holding your money right now. And I don't know if I'm going to come down from this anytime soon. I haven't gotten one since last year, but there's just pesky one from Howland. And I know what the deal was. I was passing, and I was probably going 12 over the speed limit over on the 82 bypass. And that little dude that's sitting by the barrier there, I see him every stinking day, so I know he's there. He probably nabbed me I don't know when, obviously, because, it's not like you get any, you get any range of dates that when you were, when you're in the moment, where if it could have been passing, could have been in a hurry, could have been just being stupid or whatever. But anyway, that Howland one, I came in the mail, and I looked at it and I said, screw this, I'm done paying these. I'm going to go 9 miles an hour over the speed limit, which means I will never get one of these things again. And this one, I'm going to be a martyr for this one. And I know our attorneys here on the program said, just pay it because it's going to go to collections and they're going to ruin your credit and whatever. And I said, no, I don't believe it. I'm a principled dude, and I will jump on this massive grenade to prove a point, and I'm going to complain and bitch and moan about it until, I cause enough of a disturbance. I'm just going to try to make enough waves so I feel better about it. Go ahead, trash my credit, trash my driving record, come after me. And it gives me the energy to tell my story over and over again about it. It really gets under my skin that the public would be, this motive. We're all saying we don't mind you enforcing rules, right? But this is the wrong way. This is the slimiest, sleaziest way to go after people. So, no, I did not get a recent speeding ticket. This is just, it came up in current news, so I figured I'd let everybody know about it. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Let's talk about computers now. 330-729-9977. Last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the scams, and I go right from the police camera scam to the Social Security, IRS tax scam, the dating scam, the phone porting scam. There are more types of scams that exist in our era than ever before. And so we're going to describe a couple of them and how, when they come through, that you can kind of foresee them and you can predict them and what to do with them. So, and I'm telling you that if you just are suspicious of every phone call, then when that phone call comes through, you're going to kind of know. And I've been even legitimate calls, I've been putting through the ringer even if they're not legitimate, and I haven't felt bad at all. So if somebody calls me and I don't recognize the number and I accuse them of being a scammer before they have to say anything, I don't feel bad about that. Not at all. Don't call me. Don't load up my phone line and think I owe you a conversation. Man, I'm just doing an angry show today. I love this. Anyway, so the first scam is the IRS scam. So you get this voice recording, either somebody that has a heavy Indian accent or just real heavy accents where these been coming from, and they say that they're from the IRS or Social Security or Medicare or name your government agency, and they say that there's a problem with your account and something happened, and it's bad, and you're going to have to take immediate action. You're going to have to call them back, or you're going to have to give them your Social Security number. or they're just going to have to issue a warrant in your name, and you're just going to have to get arrested, right? And they're, when you start talking about that language from taking all things considering in that context, it's a scam, right? But part of you who has this, a respect for authority, part of you wants to say, okay, well, if this is the real thing, let me give a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But these people are good, and they prey upon you giving the benefit of the doubt, and they exploit the crap out of you giving them the benefit of the doubt. So I'm telling you to flip the script and don't give them the benefit of the doubt. In fact, if you're an IRS agent and you're calling me, I'm going to accuse you of a scammer. How about that? You're going to have to just deal with it because there are too many scammers to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give you the penalty of doubt. How about that? And so I don't care if it's someone who comes to your front door, or someone emails you, or someone messages you, or someone tweets at you or whatever. None of them owe you, or you owe a response to. I don't care who they say they are. I don't care if they say they're your bank, your boss, you're an IRS agent, a police department, someone from Medicare. Nobody. They're all lying as far as I'm concerned. And so all of the scams that I'm going to kind of explain here, if you would just take it through that lens and accuse it, you're going to be able to pick up on it, pretty quick that something's not right about it. So if somebody is going to give you a notification that there is a problem, I can't say that your bank's not going to call you and say that there's a problem, but I don't want you ever to call the number that they give you back. I want you to go to your paperwork and your statements and the back of your card, and I want you to get the number that you trust. Because if you call that number that they give you, they're going to sound like they're from the originating place. They're going to sound like the IRS, right? But all of that stuff can be spoofed, and they can pretend, and they can dress it up so that it's like it. So you can't trust calling the number they gave you. You have to call the number that you know and you trust, which means break that state. If the bank calls and they say, hey, there's a problem with your card, you're going to say, you know what? Thank you for the notification, but I will call you guys back. Click, right? Because that's all they get to do. They get to say something at you, and then you get to call your bank back. You call your bank back and say, hey, I'm just returning your guys' call. You said there was a problem. And they say, oh, no, there wasn't a call. Boom, you just saved yourself from a potential scam. And these happen all the time, and they happen every day. And we hear people, usually the people that fall victim to it, they don't get to the point where they get wiped out, where they give something away. But they just were allowed to be engaged so much, right, that they were able to draw information. So if the scammer, let's just say they hijacked the database that knew your name and your address, and they're thinking of 1,000 different ways to get you by just having your name and your address, and they're like, I'm coming up empty. I need more information from that. So they call you up, they find your phone number, and they call you up and they say, hey, you know what, there's a problem. Can I just have you verify, where you work? And you're like, yeah, I work at blah, blah, blah. Boom, you just added something to their database. Now they've got not only your name, your address, your phone number, now they know where you work. Now they can hang up with you. They don't have to do anything with that, but they can call you back again and say, hey, this is blah, blah, blah from the place you work. Hey, can you verify your paycheck's going to get held up this week? Give me your last 4 digits of your Social Security number so we can make sure your paycheck doesn't get hung up. Or like, oh, sure, I don't want my paycheck to get hung up. It's, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they can hang up again. Now look what they've gotten on you. So when you hear that there are phishing and there are spear phishing attempts, these are very sophisticated scams that attempt to get as much information on people as they can so they can keep trying to convince you that they are somebody who they are not, and eventually they can scam and trick somebody into giving up information. So think about it this way, like a phishing attempt is that I know that all of you have a bank, right? But I can't just say I'm from bank. There's a problem with your bank, right? You wouldn't believe me. But I know that maybe if I go up on Google, I say, how many customers does Farmers National Bank have? And it says 20% of the people are Farmers National Bank. Now I send an email to every person that I know that says, hey, this is blah, blah, blah from Farmers National Bank. Of the people that I send it to, I think that 20% of them are going to come back with having or are a customer of Farmers Bank. Right? So that's what phishing is. It's hitting a large number of people with a specific set of information, and it's not going to apply to most of them, but some are going to be like, ooh, that's me, right? And so that is phishing, where large numbers of people sweeping across, hoping to catch you as you being one of the people that are in their crosshairs. All right, we're going to talk about a little bit more about this scamming because it's as you can see, I'm kind of fired up about this topic. I'm not a real big fan of scamming people, tricking people, lying to people, anything that delves in the vicinity of untruth. That's where they get they get me all fired up. So you got me here for the next hour and a half or so. 330-729-9977. You can text me here at 333-1570 as well. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'm Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and we're talking about things that are happening in tech. Kind of giving you a briefing on some of the scams that we see circulating around. These things are perpetual. They never go away. So I kind of give you the attitude of trust no one. Take everything into consideration, and that way if you do delve into these territories and somebody approaches you, that you don't give somebody access to something or grant privilege to someone that doesn't deserve it and end up taking your stuff. So the profile of these people who scam, who prey upon the rest of us here, they kind of go after a segment of the population. See, most of us, if we don't create ourselves as the best target, there are other people that they're going to go after that are easier. And they have a tendency to pick on the elderly because the elderly are trusting. They will go along with it. They'll think that if you tell them they have to, and they will believe the authority right from the get-go. So those of us who have parents and elderly people in our family, it would be probably a good idea to have the conversation if they're delving in technology, what to do. There was a couple grandmas that would they're widows, and they would talk to other older people that were also as lonely as they were, to have someone to talk. And wouldn't you know that a lot of those things happen on those, and I'm not going to call them like just necessarily dating apps, but also when people can connect and have conversations, that kind of stuff happens. So think of a scammer that can purport to be anybody that they want to be, any story that they want to be, how they could get to know someone for 30 days. Like, let's just say if all I did, I sat in front of my computer and I brought up all the chat apps and I started just talking with people. There's some people that are in the same boat that are on all the time and I can talk to all the time, and I can lay down as thick of stories as I want to lay down. All right, and I say, hey, Marge, that's the target of today's. Marge is my target, and Marge, I'm in a pinch here. Is there any way that you could lend me $20? I need to go see my grandkids, and I just have no gas. Well, Marge is going to say, this isn't a scammer. A scammer wouldn't ask for $20. I'm going to think that this guy's been talking to for a week now. Needs the $20, so I'm going to get him the $20. And then he's like, and you know what? This dude might even pay her back. Right? This dude might even just, sell the story, because that person can literally sit down around all day and manage hundreds of these conversations and relationships and circulate hundreds of dollars between buying and selling, borrowing and paying back, until all of them have confidence in the person that's sitting over there. And they're doing this hundreds of times over, right? So, then they ask for something big. Hey, I'm in big trouble now. I have my car's getting taken, and grandma thinks, I don't want my car taken. I have some money. Let me write my friend who always pays me back a check. Well, remember, this person can multiply this by hundreds and hundreds of people. So again, this is the kind of stuff that you want to talk about with someone who is too trusting when it comes to their online behaviors, that don't know any better. Where it's a great thing to be able to participate and have conversations and form relationships over the web. It's a really bad thing when we leave them open without the tools necessary to protect themselves and prevent bad things from happening. So that is part 2 of it. We're going to talk about scamming for one more segment here when we come back. But if you need to get on the line, 330-729-9977, or you can text me at 333-1570. I'll be reading those messages over the next segment. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'm Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and we're talking things about scams. I think that's weirdly worded. Anyway, we're talking about scams and what we can do prevention-wise, to insulate ourselves from some of the fallout that these scams. So identifying is, really half the battle. If you know that someone's coming up to you and trying to scam you, you can not give them any information that they're seeking. If they're hitting you, it's because they don't quite have enough to fully scam you. But if you participate, you're going to give them enough, and that's what we want to not happen. So the last couple weeks on Facebook, bunch of messages have come through by these random people saying, hey, how was your day? Right? And then so when you respond, my day was great. I don't know you, but okay. And then they do their pitch where they say that, hey, did you hear about the lottery, right? The special lottery that you probably won. Another one was, hey, did you know about the state grants? Do you know about those? How about assistance programs, right? So all of these things, somebody's introducing you to some kind of financial somehow you are a beneficiary of some financial transaction, either through some kind of an assistance program that's government-based, sometimes a grant program that is, state-based, sometimes it's a lottery that's probably in a different state. But all of these are like really low-hanging fruit as far as being able to tell. Total stranger makes a pitch at you, telling you about something you've won, hang up the phone like right off the bat, because this is like that has all the makings of a scam. Now, these aren't very sophisticated. Anybody can sniff them out. I mean, even our elder listeners out there, when someone comes at you that you don't know and just makes sort of like a random, conversation, and they get sort of on that personal level too quick. They're doing it kind of wrong. They could like feather it in there a little bit better to make it less obvious, right? But I think what's happening is that people's accounts on Facebook are getting hacked, and then they're using those hacked Facebook accounts for thousands of these messages. So they don't spend a whole lot of time in feathering it in. I don't think they have enough time because they've only got a limited amount of time before the original user, changes their password and gets control of the account back. So they kind of act fast, and so you can tell they kind of rush through to make you either on the hook or not on the hook. All right, 330-729-9977. Let's go to Janet. Janet, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi, Joe. I wanted to say thank you for performing a public service. I have to say you epitomize what is good about an area. And I know you don't like to have someone say something like that, but you're a very good businessman. But in addition, you're an honest, decent, and have a lot of integrity. That's what comes across to me. And I'm in Pennsylvania. I tell my husband all the time what kind of good work that you do, you and your business, and I think you're very honest and fair people. And I think, I wanted to say thank you for being, having that caring interest that, I usually do myself. I'm not one of those trusting people. I've never been that way. If you're going to call me, you're coming into my home. I have to war. They don't bother to introduce themselves and let you know who they are. And I think you're right. A combination of a lot of older people are very trusting. You shouldn't be that way. And when you're on Facebook, I don't even like to go on Facebook unless I have an issue to discuss, and that would be I might comment on Facebook, and that's it. I don't have any friends that I don't know. Anybody friending me that I don't know, I decline any invitation to be friends with anybody at all. So, I just go on there more or less to publicly make a comment as far as politics, and that's it. And I get all these people sending, like you said, they send all these things like, oh, you want to be my friend? No, I don't. Thanks anyways. I don't trust anybody. And you're right. I hope that most people, older people, accept that policy and try not to be so trusting, because most older people are, as my husband said, this is a new problem we have in society where the law is breaking down. We have too many people on drugs. You have to watch where you park, make sure your doors are locked, your home doors are locked, and that you do really perform a great service to society. I just wanted you to know what kind of a good person you come across as. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Janet. Appreciate you being out there. All right. Take care. That's awesome. That gives me chills. 330-729-9977. Let's go to Bob next. Bob, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi, Joe. How you doing today, buddy?
Real good.
Good. Listen, this is somewhat along the same line, but I enjoy listening to you weekly. It's a great service, and thank you for providing it. But along the same line as the scam phone calls, I feel sorry for the people that receive phone calls from. Let me put it this way: it's hard enough for law enforcement officers to make a living. Why these guys will strap on a gun and put their lives in danger for $15 an hour is sometimes beyond me. But to have somebody call you and say they're calling to raise funds for the DARE organization or something like this, and they're really not even a police officer, and when the caller ID comes across, it's from something called Fortunes 77 or something like that. It's from an advertising agency. And I feel really bad that the police agencies are lending their names, if that's a good way to say it or not, I'm not sure, or lending their reputations to people who call and do things like this, because I think every good citizen contributes and helps their law enforcement officers as much as they can. When they receive this kind of call, it's, oh, hey, you helped us last year, or hey, so-and-so officer, and they'll just pick an officer from a local police department, use their name, and say, so-and-so recommended you or gave us your name. And I don't say this lightly because we verified it, that they just pick a name out of thin air. And I feel bad for people that receive these kind of calls. And I wish that there were a way that these people would straighten out and not have calls like this.
Yep, I agree. Thank you, Bob, for calling. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being out there. And I was venting, and what I said about the whole fundraising and whatever is borderline disrespectful. But when it's a thing where I wish I could, we all want to support our law enforcement, and they do a difficult job, and they do deserve more money than they make. But these things that get us on the wrong side of their support, like when Struthers cops come down and say, hey, will you participate in the Shops with Cops, right? I'm in 2 seconds on board, ready to help, because I believe in police officers being sort of like part of the community, so that the public trusts them. And when you extend that trust and you vouch for it, right, you don't want to see the people that you brought in and trusted then capitalizing on that trust like these speed cameras do. And that's my anger that comes from there, where you are totally exhausting goodwill, and doing it for the sake of fundraising is the worst. It is the worst, inhumane. It is terrible to what you're going to do, community, because you're going to need your community support one of these days. And if you spend your time turning the community on you for the sake of fundraising, that future does not look very bright. So I'm just imploring you, cut it out with the speed cameras. Go back to doing face-to-face law enforcement. The money grab needs to stop. So, Bob, thank you very much. You got real close to saying that, and I know what Bob was saying about using those fundraising in the names. And honestly, there have been a couple school districts did the same thing, where I'll get a call saying, this is John from Struthers Volleyball, and would you like to buy some advertisement to support Struthers Volleyball? And then I say, you know what, I can't make that decision right now. I call down to Struthers and say, hey, do you guys benefit from that investment? And they'll say something like they get free programs, or they'll get something free. It's not like that money goes to the program, right? They're just getting a free service if you run advertising through that company. And I'll never do it. I'll give money directly to Struthers Volleyball. Sorry to pick on you, Struthers. I just have dealt with you, so I'm using example. This goes across all city borders. So I'll give directly to the Struthers cops. I'll give it directly to the Struthers volleyball team, but not through these third parties. And so the first question when it comes to this, someone's advocating for somebody, ask them if they are the company or they are a third party. If they're a third party, hang that phone up. I'm not talking to third party. I'll call down and make my donation directly to. Again, very angry show today, so thanks for letting me be angry. I have every once in a while I have one of these shows, and they're kind of fun on my end. I get to vent and get the stuff off my chest, and then we could talk about rainbows and butterflies in another episode. All right, text message. I once tried to defend a speed camera. Now that it has been proved safety is not the concern, I agree. Don't pay them. Your credit isn't getting hurt over $100. And in all honesty, I'm not going to go down that road again. Yes, I agree with you. I'm not paying it, and my intention was to send them pictures of money, and then I just decided I'll just shred them when they come in and be done with it. But you can hound me for the rest of my life. In 20 years from now, I don't care if you've put it on my credit report. I don't care if you're still calling me in 20 years. If you call me, I'm gonna tell you that same story and get it vented every single time. It's worth the energy expense for me to feel good about it that I did not pay your rip-off speeding ticket that I had no ability, even a recollection of what I was doing wrong at the time. You spared nobody any safety from slowing me down, because I didn't slow down. If I was speeding, I probably continued to speed after I saw you, because you didn't let me know, or you didn't pull me over or do anything police-like. Oh my goodness, I just keep going. All right, another text message. IRS will never call or email a citizen. They only communicate through the mail or knock on your door. Absolutely. And they send you these very official looking letters in the mail. And, I sometimes, and I'm wondering that, mail's accessible from everybody. And what would it take? What would happen if someone decided to spoof IRS letters? Would it be, maybe they don't do it because it's easier, or it's easier to get caught when you do that because you got to buy stamps and you got to drop it off at a post office or have somebody pick it up. There's some kind of contact. Maybe they just afraid, but there's nothing stopping me from printing out an envelope that just looks like an IRS envelope and putting a letter together that looks just like an IRS letter and putting the same stuff in there and making it official and making you call me. So it's one of those things where maybe they don't do it for those reasons because it's easier to get caught. Spam phone and spam messages, spam MMS or multimedia messaging is all cheaper and less personal. And maybe that's why they don't do it. But and even all those things, someone knocks on your door, they've got a black suit on, and they show me a badge. I'm halfway not trusting you too, honestly. Now, if you called me a bunch of times and sent me a bunch of letters and sent me something up, I guess there's a certain point where I'm gonna believe you, right? But it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna have to buy my belief because I'm distrusting, distrusting anymore. Okay. The one last scam, and it's tax season, so this happens quite a bit too. I was a victim of this not too long ago, where someone will get enough information from you to be able to file a tax return in your name, and they'll use a hijacked physical address and a hijacked server to actually file an income tax return in your name. And the couple that I saw, I actually was called into a server that was hosting these, and they had maybe 100 of these tax returns that were filed. And I got to look through the PDF returns that they actually submitted and the addresses that they used and the names that they used. Each one of these returns probably was around $30,000 worth of refund. Okay, all fictitious information. And if you follow it back, this is how they did it. They took over a server. Like there was a server that maybe wasn't used anymore and wasn't doing anything, but they found a way to wiggle on there and dump some files on there. And once they had that access to it, they were able to go to like TurboTax, and route the internet session through that computer and then file the return so that if anybody said, hey, who filed that return? It came back to this computer that was sitting off in the corner. By the time we get to it, we see that there's just a bunch of stuff on it, a bunch of PDF documents, and we see TurboTaxes on there, and we see some profile pictures. So they really doctor it up to make it look like it's a real person. They take on a very Americanized name, a real address. And I'm wondering when they file these things if they really have access to the addresses. The one that I saw was all kinds of different addresses in Columbus. So they must have like maybe vacant homes that still might have mail delivery, and they file these returns and they just go around to all the mailboxes and try to collect these returns if they should come back. But there were, like I said, there were hundreds of filings on this computer. So now the IRS will tell you sometimes. They'll tell you if you've already been filed. It's the last year when I did it, I filed, and they sent me a letter that said, "Hey, I just want to let you know you've already filed," and that was the big red flag that somebody already, somebody already did a filing in my name. But it was all resolved. They had a way of fixing it very quickly, but it was kind of scary when somebody else files a tax return, in your name, because it doesn't take all that much. You just know your social security number and you can put any address you want down there. Hopefully that red flags it. Hopefully the AI in that system can detect when somebody's changed their mailing address. They've lived somewhere for X amount of years, and maybe let's scrutinize this one manually if there's an address change, that kind of a thing. But you never know. But that is a scam, so be aware of that if somebody is. Now, what can you do on this kind of stuff? The philosophy is that there's enough information that people have on you right now that you can you can probably get hit. It's just a matter of time when you get hit. And there are only so many things that you can't change. You can change your bank account. You can change your you can change your harder things to change. You can't change your physical address very easily. You're not going to be able to change your social security number very easily. You're not going to be able to change your name very easily. And of those three, your physical address doesn't buy you too much, and your name doesn't buy you too much. Your social gets you some stuff because you can get got good credit. Somebody can just try to pretend to be you and create accounts in your name. Identity theft. But what can you do? You can really have a system of paying attention to transactions that are happening. So if you have a very complicated life, lots of accounts, have a piece of paper in your office, in your house that has all of your accounts. You don't have to put account numbers, but just put all of the accounts that you own, okay? And write the amounts and the stuff you know about that account. Every time when bills go through, check the same type of information. Make sure that you know what the balances should be. You know how many credit cards you probably pay where people have scooted scam purchases on there and you didn't notice and you end up paying for scam purchases? I bet you every one of us listening out there, if they would look at their credit card statements every month, knows that there's stuff on there that you didn't put, and there's tons of stuff that you didn't catch. So if you expect it to be a certain amount on there and it is not that amount, then you can look through every single transaction. I would recommend you doing that anyway. Have a very good relationship with your finances by paying attention to them, knowing where they are, instead of just mindlessly letting things auto draft for the sake of ease, right? They are counting on you putting your life on autopilot, because when something happens, autopilot doesn't pick it up, right? And then you end up paying for things that you never ordered. Now, something big happens, like you buy a jet ski in Miami, you might notice that one when you go to pay the bill. But otherwise, and they might even notice it too on the credit card side. But anyway, the smaller transactions are what we're all getting hammered with. So defend your information. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back, take some more of your phone calls. The number here is 330-729-9977. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. Good advice, too, that if you do receive any of these calls from someone who might be suspect, it's always a good idea to report them to the FTC. FTC's website has a really good form to be able to put, every time I receive a call that is suspicious, I'll drop all they really want to know is the originating number, the time of the call, and a little description of what you think went down, and let them investigate. I can't say that any of what I've given them, panned out. And I really hope that they pursue some of this stuff and maybe use it to track people down and make it really difficult, because I don't think they can stop it, but they can make it difficult and make these scammers pick different avenues. If we can keep them off of these, more lucrative sides, they'll pick something else. I mean, you don't get bad people to stop doing bad things. You just change so they're not, doing it in your front yard kind of a thing. So overall goal is don't be the biggest mark, right? You don't want to be the most vulnerable person. They're going to pick on people. Make it not you. Don't be the profile that they love. And number two is when you protect and prevent your data, you know what your data is. It's the only way that you can protect it. You got to know how they use it and how to make it so that you very rarely give it to people unless you absolutely have to. We were talking to Mo Ray a couple weeks ago, and he put his whole credit file on lock. He froze his credit accounts, right? And all that does is that you can steal my credit card or my social security number, but you can't open anything. It's locked down. You can't do any. I can't either, right? When it's frozen, you can't get authorized for anything. Nobody can get stuff made out in your account. But if you're not doing it, what does it hurt to not have a credit score or to be able to pass a credit check? It's frozen. It'd probably be a good state to be in. I spent an entire segment on this, so I apologize for spending so long, but it was that important. I was a little, mad this morning when I was thinking about this, so I'm glad I dedicated. Hopefully there's a couple people I might have been able to help out there. Let's take a quick phone call before we head off to the break. Ray, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you? Hello, Ray.
Yes, I have a computer question. Are you answering those? Or
Yeah, I sure can.
I have a laptop, and it's a 4-year-old laptop. I don't know if I could tell you what to make, but the problem is this. I have a Wi-Fi, and it was working great. All of a sudden, I try to go onto the Wi-Fi through the router. It's saying it's not connected. It's not showing it's connected. What happened is I called and I talked to where I bought it. They told me, well, it's probably something in the computer that is related to the Wi-Fi connection, over the air. What happened is I hooked it up hard, with a hard wire. Everything works fine. But I guess my question is this: do you think it's worth fixing? Being 4 years old?
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and I want to answer this question because I want to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi. Can you hang tight until after the break?
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi because this is a topic where there's some general rules when purchasing the equipment and maintaining it and troubleshooting it as well. So we'll put some time in that when we come back from the break. 330-729-9977. You can text me here at 333-1570. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show, the snarkiest hour of radio just in the books from last hour. I don't know where that came from, but it was hella fun. So thanks, everybody, for that, for putting up for that first hour. We were talking to Ray before we went off to the break. Talking a little bit about wireless. He had a question, and let me kind of recap what Ray was saying before. He has a laptop that's struggling with a Wi-Fi connection, and he's contemplating either troubleshooting this or it might be time to replace Mr. Wi-Fi. So let's resume here with Ray. Ray, you back with me?
Yes, I am. Okay,
so the official response is I like to get about 5 years out of my whatever device is managing my wireless connections. The radios, just over time, the whole device, the firmware, it gets to the point where about every 5 years you're going to want to get a new device. Now, in your case, I think what you probably should do right off the get-go is probably renew your wireless profile on your actual laptop. Because I think what's happening is maybe there's something up with the wireless profile, and if you blast it, if you get rid of the wireless profile, it won't even know the internet connection. And then if you go to join the wireless again, if it lets you on, it might be all right, but it might tell you if there's something maybe wrong with the wireless. So it's a good troubleshooting step to know if there's really something wrong with the wireless or not.
How do you get rid of the wireless connection on a computer, though?
Okay, so is it Windows 7 or is it Windows 10?
Windows 10.
Okay, Windows 10. You're going to go into the settings, and I believe it's under Manage. I'll walk you through it here. It's under the Gear and then Network and Internet and Manage Known or Show. Let me find it. Actually, you know what? Why don't we do this? I will walk you through it, but we'll have to do it after the next segment, so that way I could go and take some notes. But it's basically under Control Panel. You look for Manage Known Internet wireless profiles, and then there's a little Manage button, and you could delete the profile under there. And then basically it won't know how to use that profile anymore. And then when you click on the wireless device, it'll show your access point again, and you can connect to it like you did the first time around.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I don't even have it on. I'm just turning it on now. I was just wondering, because when I was talking to the fellow that was trying to help me, we rebooted the computer and everything, but it just seemed like it wouldn't work. The interesting thing is I have a router that has two levels, as far as sending out the message through the internet or through the air, and they both come up on the computer, and it's showing one and it's not showing the other. And like I said, I tried everything, and every time I go on, it just shows that it's not connected.
Yeah, I mean, it might, like I said, it might be time, but I don't want to take that path first until I've tested it out to know it's not something on the computer's end. If you blast that wireless profile, you'll know for sure that it connects it brand new like another laptop would. It would also be worth doing if you have some other devices that are capable of Wi-Fi, connect them into it and see if they struggle with getting connected with the Wi-Fi as well. Sounds like wired works, so it's doing its job as a gateway to the internet, but the Wi-Fi side might be struggling with it.
Okay.
All right, and I'll look that up during the next break, and I'll give you a little bit more details about on Windows 10 how to get the managed wireless profiles.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate you being out there. And so, yeah, the consideration, we're heavily dependent on Wi-Fi for our, device streamings and our tablets and our laptops and whatnot. So we want our wireless connection to be as good as it can possibly get. And our PCs are really good at managing lots of different places that you go to that can connect to wireless, right? And so you go to a hotel and you log in. It remembers that you were at that hotel. If you ever go back to a hotel that you were already at, and it sees the same wireless device, it might already try to connect to that device. Sometimes what happens, a lot of us will keep like the SSID, the name of the wireless, the same as when you got it. So when you start traveling to other networks, sometimes you'll connect to one that's named the same as yours with different credentials or different different protocols. And so your profile gets confused because it doesn't know what it's trying to connect to. So a lot of times, either the profiles are just damaged, or they're in that case that it has the wrong set of data in there. Blasting those out and starting fresh is probably your best bet. But the general rule with all networking equipment is about 5 years. Every 5 years, if you don't remember when you got it last, you're probably going to be due. And wait for a good time. Especially, most of us are replacing these routers when the old one still technically works. So you can kind of pick your time, and if you got a good sale or see one like those Nighthawk, the AC 1900s, those are our favorites. So when we see them go on sale, we'll buy a bunch of them because we know we're going to end up using them, just a matter of time when. And in your case, then if you can pick your time, if you know you're due, then you keep your eye on the ads and keep checking on your favorite electronics store and fetch one and have it ready so that you can swap it out. It's always fun to get a new network device, because no matter what, it always seems faster. Brand new equipment, it just has that initial rush of this is better and faster and whatever. And then a couple weeks later, it gets to be just like the old, but it's still that first couple weeks is like that magical honeymoon phase with your electronics. Okay, so a little bit about artificial intelligence. Okay, so a lot is going on conversation-wise about sort of like the ethics and morality of what artificial intelligence can do and are going to do. So you got to think about like machine learning. Artificial intelligence is basically watching and observing and creating, rule sets based on what logic, how it's governed by logic. So if you have a person that is 90 years old and that person, the artificial intelligence, might deem okay to die if they run into a problem, right? So the humanities side, the morals and ethics are that life is really important, and artificial intelligence isn't going to come to the same conclusion that we as human beings are. There's some sort of like stuff that's built into us, like the keeping people alive and believing in people, and the machines don't come to those same conclusions. So when our electronics and these systems we hand over to software to make decisions, the only way that they're able to learn is to watch us to know what they should do. Now, if you've looked at society for any more than a couple seconds, you know that we are sort of decaying morally a little bit. So when artificial intelligence is looking to us to learn how decisions are to be made, like we can instruct how we should behave, but it's not really how we do behave. So it'd be really tough for artificial intelligence to make sense of, hey, you know what, we're going to emulate. We're going to say, hey, Joe drives around in his car and he goes 82 miles an hour, right? I see him do that, so let's set it at 82 miles an hour. And then it says, hey, Joe, would you like to set your speed limit to 82? And I say, no, that's way too fast. How dare you? And the artificial intelligence would say something like, well, you were driving 82 miles an hour for the last 3 months. I thought that was okay because that's what you do. And I say, no, the law should be that you should only go 65 miles an hour. Yeah, that's what you say, but we observe you, and that's not what you do. But anyway, so that's the argument where when we trust in these people that are building the logic into artificial intelligence, what level or what flavor of ethics and morality are they programming in? Because these are the things we're going to be interacting. These systems are what we're going to be interacting with. What are our standards that govern how we're forcing to say, hey, you're a computer and you're going to serve me. I want you to serve me well. You know, whose rule book are we going to use? Are we going to use sort of a religious rule book? Are we going to use a secular rule book? I mean, what are we going to pick as far as how these artificial intelligence things be governed? So every discussion that I hear my hero Elon Musk talk about, where the danger of this, you know, we're there. I mean, it's already headed there. We're already dealing with these artificial intelligence systems, but I don't think any of us know really whose brain is regulating the artificial intelligence. And it's only when we start seeing problems occur. We think that it's not going to happen. We think that the smart people are going to work through this before they let it, put people at risk. But from what I've found out and from what I've, experienced through life is that we're a reactive species that waits until we break something and then we fix it more than we are proactive species that looks ahead and predicts that, hey, if we all buy our stuff online and we make it really good, all retail is going to go away. Let's just wait until there's no more retail to say, hey, you know what? I really like that retail. Instead of doing something about it when you can, right? Right now we can do all kinds of rule sets and all kinds of legislation, and we can put our foot down and say this this is what we demand from our technology. We can do that right now. We're not talking about that. We're hoping that somebody else is having that conversation. But when we kind of like outsource those things to other people, we give those people the control to hope that they do things how we would, but we never know until it's too late whether or not that's really happening. So everybody who's programming artificial intelligence, tell me the companies that are in on it. Tell me the people behind those companies and how their board of directors are putting their rule sets together to keep this stuff honest and keep it from, killing off our 90-year-old grandmother because they're costing the system too much. That's the kind of stuff that we as society, I want to know a little bit more. I want us to have a little bit more say into what happens. So while we're thinking about this artificial intelligence and global warming and all of these big longer term futuristic things, the whole time I can't consider that we can't get along with people into tomorrow and to next week. Like we're watching people and cooperation and relationships decay. How are we could be concerned about artificial intelligence in 10 years, but we might not survive the next year? So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. We're watching a new series on Netflix called Mars. And for those of you who don't see it, I recommend it. It's a pretty good flavor here. It's sort of like it's a documentary in certain respects where they use actual footage from physicists and astronomers and entrepreneurs and CEOs and everybody that's connected to the space program has this role in this series where you hear Elon Musk and Tyson DeGrassi talking about physics and all of this stuff, but it also has an element of what's going to happen in the future when we go to actual Mars and when we try to set up civilization in Mars and we try to create an environment that has oxygen and water and food and we're in the series as it's pretty close to what I think our space agencies would be dealing with, the problems that they'd be facing, the conversations that we have. So it's kind of interesting to look at what it's going to be when we do get to the point where we, I don't want to ruin the series for any of you, but we send a bunch of probes out there first, which we've done. We just said goodbye to the Mars rover after 15 years of service. This thing that was supposed to last 90 days ended up circling and doing like 25 miles worth of data collection over 15 years when it was only supposed to be something that lasted 90 days. So we have this technology that we can send a bunch of robotic stuff there to set us up so that we have some kind of environment that when we visit Mars, it'll be ready for us where we can start to, I don't know what we're going to do, maybe harvest water from the ice that's in the ground and we're going to plant flowers and vegetation and trees. We're going to create maybe a below the ground bunker for a while. I'm not that far in the episode, so I don't know if this actually happens. So this is not a spoiler officially, but you can kind of see that we're fascinated with populating the planets in our solar system. Mars being the closest, as a good target to at least contemplate. What I thought is that, and this is a spoiler, so if you haven't seen it, you might want to not listen for a minute, plug your ears for a second. But anyway, so in one of those early on when they just landed on Mars, one of the guys died right off the get-go, and they planted him in the ground. They buried him in the ground outside of the place where they were staying. And I was thinking, like, does that guy decompose now? I mean, if there's no life, if there's no bacteria, if there's nothing what does his body do now that there's no bacteria? And I'm thinking, well, wait, there was a ton of bacteria on himself, but now that bacteria is on the planet, right? Because we just put it in the dirt. Now that bacteria is going to feed on him and grow and whatever. And now we've officially introduced bacteria. And I'm thinking, okay, well, when we sent the rover up there, did it have anything on it that could have taken some bacteria up there as well? Have we already sort of populated Mars with our, with our stuff already to this day? Or is it so uninhabitable that whatever we sent died anyway, either on entry or just there's nothing for it to feed on? So interesting stuff. Like I said, it gets your brain thinking about what would happen and what this would be like. And, when we first go there, do we create a bunch of infectiousness, like when you saw War of the Worlds, the aliens were dying of diseases or of the viruses and bacteria that we introduced. Anyway, cool thing to think about. Good show. I'm glad Netflix got one of these science fiction that's real close to science fact. I'm almost certain of. And again, my science brain just goes crazy thinking about the possibilities of one day Elon Musk, who I fancy myself as being at the same table as, and he's dead set on going to Mars, that he will take us to Mars, and whatever he needs from me, I'm volunteering myself for science, that if I can be involved somehow in being one of those early adopters, send me to Mars on a spaceship of Elon Musk's design, I'd be glad to go. Anyway, 330-729-9977 is the phone number if you want to get on the line, ask a question. I'll be checking some text messages on the next segment here. Anything about technology, computers, scams, whatever you feel like. 330-729-9977. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and this is what we do here on Saturdays. We talk about what's going on in the tech world, talk about things that fascinate me, like Mars, and we try to arm you guys against scams, that if someone shows up at your door or you get an email that's suspicious comes through, kind of know what to do, how to arm yourself against everything that could possibly happen, from this world. I do want to mention too, we're starting to do some video game tournaments. We're planning on either late in this year or early next year doing a technology expo where we're going to get all the tech companies that do stuff in this area, and we're going to showcase the heck out of them. The draw of it is we need some activity, we need some headliners, some fancy people to come from out of town to talk about things that are happening in this field. And then we need something to do to get people out of their houses. So we're going to do some gaming tournaments and get people. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's something to do. There's a lot of people in this area that do comics and gaming and stuff like that. So we're going to participate. This is sort of our first attempt. And as always, all of you, when asked, always come through for me, and I always do appreciate that. But what we're doing here is we're going to do at the end of the month on a Saturday, we're going to do a gaming tournament. We're opening it up to about 100 participants, and it's going to be bracketed, sort of like the March Madness stuff in basketball. Double elimination, where kids and adults. I started with Super Mario Brothers, and the reason I did this was very on purpose. I was showing my kid Super Mario Brothers. We bought one of those little consoles, and I had such a good time playing Super Mario Bros. Like the original. Like I started playing the stupid thing, and my brain started remembering where the hidden boxes were and the music, and it just all this stuff came rushing back. So it was kind of nostalgic. So I figured I'd buy a couple of these consoles, and I had a bunch of us play, and it was so much fun. So we're gonna have at the end of the month, we're gonna have a Super Mario Brothers tournament. And it's on Eventbrite. You can go to Facebook, look for the Youngstown Computer LLC Facebook page, and post it as an event on Facebook. It's Super Mario Brothers Tournament if you want to search it directly. And please get signed up. If, again, I'd like lots of participation. The tickets right now are only $8, and next week they're going to go up to 10. And then the following week the total will be 15. So this is the cheap way of getting an entry into the tournament. You got another week of it being $8 an entry, and then limited to 100 people. So we want to make sure that we have enough time for the entrants that are going to start. We'll probably get started around 9 o'clock in the morning, and then there'll be another group that comes in at 10, and another group after that comes in at 11. So go look for the Super Mario Brothers tournament over on Facebook and get yourself signed up. Also over there on Eventbrite. All right, take a break. Come back, take some more of your phone calls. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'm Joe Danier of Youngstown Computer, and this is a show for you guys. We talk about things that are happening in tech. Real quick, I get asked this quite a bit, and I don't know that I've had a really good response for it, but people ask, like, hey, my kid or my grandkid is going to school. What do you think they should do? What are some high-paying jobs? What are the interesting things that are happening next? Look into your crystal ball and tell me where the industries are going. So I looked up some of the tech positions, the tech jobs around the country. Now, granted, this is an industry average that's the entire United States. So if your grandson or your son or you yourself are interested in doing, being employed in any of these types of jobs, you might have to go outside of Youngstown. I really wish you wouldn't. I mean, it would be amazing if our country could host, or our city could host these jobs and have the rates that are comparable to other marketplaces. But I'm going to give you a general idea. So number one is a cybersecurity engineer, someone who so you think of a bank, someone who engineers the traffic in and out of the bank that protects people and insulates people from the constant inundation. I tell my customers all the time, it's not a matter of if somebody won't to stop somebody. It's when they try to be able to manage it, to mitigate what they're able to do when they do try. And so, most of the banks over here are under a constant threat of someone trying to, hammer in, hack, spam, spoof, all this kind of stuff. And so a cybersecurity engineer is someone who can defend, and that's why this is industry-wide. It's about $140,000 a year is what you can expect as a cybersecurity engineer when employed by government or a financial industry or the insurance industry, something like that could make. Next one would be system admin, $130,000 a year. A software engineer, $127,000 a year. A hardware engineer, $120,000 a year. A cybersecurity analyst would be $100,000 a year. Application development, $95,000 per year. A system analyst, $93,000 per year. An IT project manager would be $85,000 a year, and a web developer, $74,000 per year. So those are sort of your top 9 of what's going on in the marketplace as far as hiring, these types of work. So if you're going to make cybersecurity is not going away. In fact, we're probably on the losing end of this battle right now. There's a lot of liability that the financial industry is just kind of taking it on the chin and they're absorbing. It's still really happening. So as we get people that are better at the position and, our technology gets better at outwitting and outmaneuvering, they will be higher demand where it's going to be worth a bank to pay someone $150,000 to manage and to, what happens if they're able to save them $22 million a year worth of loss? What if the losses get the fraud gets to a point where they can hire a couple $150,000 people and you can claw all that money back into their companies? That would be well worth it. So having an understanding of how security works, cybersecurity works, because I'm telling you, there are companies every day that we deal with that are on the way behind the 8 ball. So a lot of these people are necessary, especially in the coming years, to having a really good grasp on how security is implemented, security tactics and whatnot. I know our military does an amazing job of training security professionals. There's a lack of them. People that I know, are constantly looking for people that have a good enough grasp and understanding to be employable. So there's a real lack here. So if you're going to give some advice, get into the cybersecurity world. YSU just did an event for hackers, and this is sort of the breeding grounds where we get our best security people, people who participate in sort of that hacking culture. Because if you know how it works, if you participate on that level, you get created exactly what our industries need, and people who know how the hackers think and how they get into your systems and how they manipulate the function. Every time you let an incoming packet into your network, it has the threat of not being a packet that you'd want into your network. And these people are exceptionally valuable in making our infrastructure safe and making it dependable. So, your consumers are protected from things that are happening. There's way too many instances of companies that are falling victim to hacking attempts. All right. That is it for today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Enjoy all the rest of the sports for today. Thank you for participating, all of our callers. Have a great one. You've now listened to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN.